Hello, I am Jose Ruiz-Alba, Professor of Marketing at the University of Westminster. Today, I'm honored to introduce Babak Taheri. He is Professor of Marketing at Nottingham Business School. He has published more than 100 academic papers in high-impact factor journals, and also he has held funds from the European Union and from the UK funding bodies. Professor Taheri currently serves as Associate Editor for the Service Industries Journal and also for the International Journal of Contemporary Hospitality Management. He's also currently leading the cutting-edge doctoral research stream for doctoral students for those who have recently awarded their doctorate in the last 2 years from completion, providing them the opportunity to publish the journals drawing on the doctoral research. So, Babak, we're more than happy to join your presentation today and to engage in academic discussion with you. Thank you for being here.
Good morning there. So I start my presentation, and thanks very much for the introduction, Jose. Okay. So just before starting going through the slides, just want to mention a little bit. Jose had a very good introduction, but I also want to say a couple of very, let's say, housekeeping sort of thing. So my research mainly is on an area of marketing, but in consumer engagement and marketing management. So I published quite a lot of papers on consumer engagement. And I like that topic because my PhD was on consumer engagement 100 years ago as well. So it's always that I have that in mind, and I like to develop further on that. So I cannot escape for that part, but also I am very interested in marketing management area. And always is something to do with experience, something to do with the services. And also I like the context I like to apply is tourism, leisure. Instead of writing something about Coca-Cola, I write about something I like, which is travel, tourism, drinking, eating, which is a very personal thing, but it's important to write something about your own interest. So, and also I'm an editorial board of several journals, Journal of Business Research, International Consumer Studies, Journal of Travel Research, a lot of them. And all these things, the slides today I'm presenting, part of it is going to be on specifically on the Service Industries Journal, but other part is my experience in being a senior editor, associate editor, member of editorial board. I did more than 10 special issue. I edited more than 10 special issue in different topics, and all is about my own personal view. So my colleagues, they might have a different view on the research, and I really appreciate, and that's why it's good to have different opinions, particularly when it comes to social science, because it's a very subjective matter. So without further ado, I will start the slides. And as I said, the first part is about Service Industries Journal and our initiative with Professor Levent Altunay as editor of the Journal of Service Industries, Service Industries Journal. But also, I give you some tips on how to publish as well in the following bit. So the Service Industries Journal, I'm just going to put this because it covers my view. The mission of the Service Industries Journal from the name is about service sector, service firms, and also anything to do with the services. As long as these services somehow they are informed by social sciences. So by social sciences, I mean sociology, psychology, economics, law, politics. So it needs to be informed by that. So, and because the management and marketing, HR, all these management business school topics are informed by sociology, psychology, and economics. So is a good place to publish them. Also, the journal has a high impact factor, is an acute one impact factor-based as well, and also has a quite high site score in Scopus. An important function of the research, and as an aim for the rigorous research in general, and what is the journal is also interested, is advances academic understanding. So something needs to advance the academic understanding. Also something needs to contribute to the organization and policy makers. And of course, as a teachers, we are all researchers, but also the teacher in the same time is important to contribute to teaching practices. Publication motivations also is important. It has to do with the personal achievement, but also development of the thinking, writing, and communication skills. A new contribution to knowledge is always important. Now, this is a word we sometimes struggle, not in this service industry journal, but any journal. I've been in editorial board or associate editor. And previously I was senior editor of tourism management perspectives as well. And we had that always. What is the contribution? So it's not like you're changing the rules in the world, contributing in a particular topic, particular angle of a research. Let's say my view is about my research on consumer engagement, how you could contribute something to consumer engagement a bit different. So not repeating the previous study, applying maybe in different contexts, applying to different, adding the new mediating or moderating factor, interviewing different people. And at the end, that contribution to marketing and management is important. Also something to do, adding to your CV as well. And we all like to add that to our CVs anyway, to publish any papers and stuff. And it's important for the promotion and etc. Some example of global issues normally, and these are the hot topics. I know Levent and myself are interested in these topics. So refugee crisis, the Silk Road, climate changes, sustainability, aging population and well-being, particularly those people. I'm sure Asia is the same. People are today from the Europe is the fastest aging population in the world is Europe. So a lot of things is happening. People's having difficulties with mobility, moving around. Each day. So was a demonstration other day in France about increasing the retirement ages. All these things is interesting and impactful sort of researchers. Smart services and digital, with AI, with smart cities, with all these things, digital marketing, online engagement, e-sport, all these topics are playing an important role in current research and to the world we are in. Informal economy, don't ask me to explain these things about economy and finance. I'm not a finance and economy person, but lots of stuff to do with the banking will be interested as well. Global peace, again, a lot of the war happens in Russia and all these things has a lot of interesting insights. For example, global marketing, the influence of that, those kind of wars in the living crisis, at least I can say in Britain and some part of the Europe. And post Brexit, that's another interesting topic. And also post-pandemic is another interesting topic to talk about. Methodology-wise is interdisciplinary social science informed research. A lot have to do with the potential for economy, social and environmental impacts, and international scope. So if we take this research and apply, if the research was in Europe and Britain, apply that in China and US, should have a similar sort of contribution, or at least with some twist can be with more insight to that particular topic. Methodology, we are open for qualitative theory building exercises. We mix method. That's one of the session I am personally interested. I do quite a lot of mixed method papers myself. That's one of the only problem with mixed method we talk later on is normally is long. So editing that is a bit painful, I would say sometimes. Experiments, we very much with experiments. We love to receive more experiment papers. Action research, big data, again, a lot of big data papers and research is happening. And multidisciplinary, with the multidisciplinary contributors, people mix up Asian, British, European, all these things, bringing different insight. That would be quite interesting as well. Editor-in-chief of the journal, Levent Altınok, this is like from his sort of opinion after taking over. After taking over as the editor-in-chief of the journal. So published research, a lot to do with develop of the theory. That is very important. So bringing stuff from HR, operation management, innovation, financial management. Again, covers quite a lot of areas and services, but informed by social sciences. I keep saying that, that's very important. So we just don't want to be another paper from marketing and doesn't have any insight from sociology or psychology. So it's very important. And contribution to global contemporary research in social, economic, political, and environment issues. Structural change and appointment. It's quite old journal. It's from 1981. Since Levent took over as a regional editors, for methodology editors, and also one Chinese language editor as well. So all the papers published in Service Industries Journal, also they have a Chinese abstract as well. And also expanding the editorial board is always open for the, particularly the junior members, junior academics to join the journal. It's good experience for them as well. Now, that was introduction for the journal. Now going more details on cutting edge doctoral research stream. So doctoral student and those who have recently been awarded their doctorate. And that, what we mean by that, 2 years of the completion. This initiative is very much targeting these people. So you are either a PhD student currently, or you have finished your PhD within the 2 years. Paper must be either in a conceptual or methodological contribution. So it needs to have both, one of these, either conceptual or methodological. So conceptual papers are without data, as from the name, focuses on a particular new idea or topic within the service industry. So it needs to be in service industries. Should offer a clearly argued and justified integrated framework proposal, which happens with lots of, I would say, maybe 80–90% of the PhDs. So it needs to offer something new, something niche, new and novel sort of ideas, conceptual papers. We are also open here for SLRs as well, for the critical literature review, bibliological sort of reviews, structured literature review. We are all very open for that as well. Conceptual paper adding value to existing literature. So let's say people keep talking about co-creation of value for years. Suddenly you find something on that which is interesting to a particular service industries. or you want to do sort of structured sort of literature review on that. Demonstrate how these insight result is clear direction for future research. And that happens with the lots of conceptual papers and also SLR papers. They need to give a good direction for the future research. That is a key selling point of the conceptual papers. For the methodological papers, it needs to be current and new methods. So we are open for the new initiatives here. It needs to be something new, particularly with the big data and digitals. There are lots of initiatives happening. I will explain some of these examples later on, but big data analysis using different softwares, using, let's say, different experimental approaches, using HLM, using a lot of initiatives in this, and more initiative in use of using and applying the methodological approach, you have a bigger chance to get in to the journal. And sufficient and detailed explanation of the, the method, but there's a very good link between the methodology and with the literature. So papers are methodological or conceptual. We're looking for 5,000 words papers. So we're not looking for 9,000 words or 10,000 words. So it's small. And when you're submitting your paper for the cutting edge doctoral research stream, you need to have a cover letter stating these 3 points. The stage of first author has reached in their doctoral studies. So as I mentioned, either you are a PhD student or you are within the 2 years of finishing your PhD. Whether it is a conceptual or methodological, and why the paper should be considered for publication on cutting-edge research. So these 3 are important with the covering letter. So based on that, we could say, well, person, because normally we receive 9,000 words as a full paper, but this one is it's still considered as a full paper, but we're trying to help junior member of staff, junior researchers in this. Right. I go through again some academic journal writing tips in next slides, and which are important for the service industries journal, but important also for anybody who wants to publish in other journals. So initial research idea. Good research starts with a good research topic. That's not a rocket science, but we need to have a very good research topic. Good knowledge on the literature before going through, you do your homework, basically. If you want to write something about consumer engagement, you need to know what are the main authors of that. You need to have some good understanding of the topic. Read the published papers and the leading journals. So in my case, as a professor of marketing, I always go back. I don't like to say 4-star journals, but fortunately or unfortunately, we use that in Britain. So I go back to look at Journal of Marketing, Journal of Consumer Research to understand what is going on, because normally those journals, they are more initiatives and the leading journals. So don't leave the papers on your desk for years. There's always opportunity for. And also, if I like this sentence, if someone asks you on a bus to quickly explain your paper, could you do that in clear, everyday language? If I understand that, you could write it more academic, jargony languages to sell your idea. But it needs to be clear for you first. It needs to be timely topic. And last one happens with the PhD student normally is don't try to cram your PhD into a 9,000 words. because you write 100,000 words for your PhD and trying to put down everything happening in your PhD. We don't need that. You need to have a very clear, summarized bits of your PhD. Where to submit? Submit a journal, your loyal readers of the journals. So for example, I have two streams of research I do, one in marketing, one in tourism. When I do tourism, I read tourism management, travel research, all those journals, and I publish in those journals. So that's what I like. But when I read for the marketing one, I like European Journal of Marketing, Journal of Business Research, all these journals, because I normally like to publish there, or like industrial marketing management, those journals. So I go there. Write journals, see if it is bad sign if you don't recognize any of the editorial words. It means like you don't have any idea to where to. So it's not a good sign for sending your paper there, basically. Impact factor of the journals and stuff, particularly when you are in Europe and in Asia and Middle East and State, even now it's the same. You need to follow your university or your national interest on this. And for that, we have ABS lists, APDC lists, and other publication lists. Normally, my recommendation, I know we fight, we say, oh, ABS is not good, ABDC is not good, but anywhere in the world you go, people know Journal of Marketing is a good journal. Doesn't matter if it's an ABS list or not. Start high, that's my philosophy. Start with the 4-star, go to 3, 2, come down. Don't start with 1 or 2, then it's gonna, if something happens, it's gonna go down more. That's my personal view on this. Structuring of the main body, don't try to write and edit at the same time. At least I cannot do that. I try to write a couple of paragraphs and then I back later on to editing after having everything in the paper. Headings, subheadings are important. So go with the heading and subheading. Cite, and this is very important, cite a couple of original important works, particularly from the journal you're targeting. That's very important. Editors hate references irrelevant to the work. So just don't dump any references in the paper. Editors hate that, reviewers hate that, so don't do that. And sometimes the worst is when you cite papers and those papers never talked about the particular topic or concept you're talking about. That's the worst thing to do. Keep sections separate. Don't move around all the time. Don't try any section. Don't turn any section into a history lesson. Do you know what stands? It's like it's the definition of engagement. Author first, one say that. Author, don't make it like that, right? Avoid sudden introduction. So you're talking about engagement suddenly without telling why you're going to talk about co-creation, you just jump in. And that's one of the reasons maybe paper gets rejected. Following the guideline for the authors is very important. Read that before starting sometimes even the project. Because some journals, they have, well, most of the journals now is they have different referencing style, different structure. Some journals, they like to follow structure in abstract, some they don't. Some journals, they want to see American English, some they don't care. Some they follow API referencing, some they don't. All these things is important. Literature review and background. So when it comes to literature review and background, why there is a need for this study, that's very important point. Why somebody needs to could be bothered actually read this paper. So there needs to be clearly tell to your readers about this. Which overarching theories you're going to use in your work. Is it an institutional theory, social exchange theory? What is the overarching theory in the journal? Background to main theory, knowledge gap, that's very important. Defining a concept and themes for the qualitative and hypothesis development for quantitative. Any visual demonstration of conceptual framework. Journals, normally they like to see if there's a quantitative, some sort of framework, conceptual model in your paper. Again, I mentioned that journals are very interested when it comes to the specific literature review sort of project, systematic literature review, meta-analysis, co-citation approach. These are still very, very popular papers. And I really recommend people, they want to submit something from their PhD to go to that route. And we are, as an associate editor of journal, we are very interested in a good SLR and meta-analysis in service industries journal. Methodology, details, but not too much details. This is the hard one. So you want to tell what's happening, but you don't want to give, again, the history lesson. So this is Cronbach alpha, that Cronbach alpha does this and that. So you don't need to. There's some common knowledge on the papers. Not repeat research method books. Keep saying, oh, here said this, here said that. You know, just don't make it like that. And normally there are qualitative, quantitative, and mixed method or multi-method papers. Results is write the results first. That's what I do normally when I do paper. You collect your data. Do you know if it's quantitative or qualitative? If it's quantitative, you want to see if your hypotheses are accepted or which one is rejected. So you go with that. If it's a qualitative, you want to see you getting some things from your interviews. Explicit reference to any figures, tables, interview quotes, etc. is included. And also only represent results essential for the discussion should be presented there as well. Don't ignore any negative findings. Again, if you have a conceptual model, and let's say you have 7 hypotheses, 6 of them accepted, 1 is not accepted, that's actually interesting. If it's the paper is everything is accepted, that's really hard to explain or tell a story. Always like to see some non-significant or very interesting different results in their papers. You just don't want to repeat what people said in the past, something more interesting. And tell a clear and easy to understand story. And of course, there is a discussion in the paper, so research question, what did you find, implication, limitation, negative findings again here, and further research. So research question, if research question is stated in introduction, I would like to see again in a different wording that is, again, is mentioned in your conclusion and discussion chapter. So you repeat it in different wording, just saying, so we start saying consumer engagement is going to influence people's satisfaction. And we did that research, we find out that, and then explain the rest. What did you find? The most important bits there, and implication. This is the one is hard to write. And as a researcher myself, sometimes whatever I write, I get somebody saying, this is not a good implication. This is not something people can teach anybody, but it needs to be clear to whoever reviews. This research has a good theoretical, good methodological, good, if there is no methodological contribution, because some people, they don't, doesn't matter. But if it's something to do with the methodology, you need to mention that. But the practical implication is important. So any research should have a practical implication. Creation of knowledge, add to what already known, original in some way, needs to be clearly stated. Reasonable conclusion supported by finding and other things. Innovativeness and originality of the papers are important, and consideration of so what impact. So that's again very important here. Conscious and following the accepted practices. So these are normally the tips I give. The sentence links and paragraph links is important. So don't write a page and not without putting the spaces between the paragraphs. There's very small things, but that's very important. Have you ever heard somebody say, I wish this paper was longer? Nobody says that. Because at 9,000 words, people will get bored even with 9,000 words. As a reviewer, I'm sure, whoever says no, I think is lying, because you never say, I wish this paper was longer. You never say that, because you want to have a very conscious, very consistent sort of paper. Grammar, typo, and stuff. And this is not just because your English is your second language. It's always good to ask somebody else's to proofread your work before saying. I wrote with lots of native American and British speakers. Even for them, writing an academic English language is different than what you talk in pubs, basically. Read the papers in the journal you're submitting. That's very, very important. So you want to demonstrate you're contributing some things already in the journal. The abstract, again, this is about 150 words, depends on the journal. Some journals 100 words. It should stand alone. It's very important. Should include purpose, methods, findings, and conclusion. Should not include discussion, evaluation, interpretation. That's very important. Write the abstract the last. I do that always. Never write in the beginning, because you don't know how you end up with the full paper. Many editor and reviewer read only the abstract first. It needs to be flawless. So again, that's very important. You want to grab your reviewer's attention, your editor's attention, your abstract. If it's a boring abstract, some reviewers say, oh, I don't understand this abstract. Lots of question comes out from the abstract. And don't try to open a can of worms, what they say in Britain. Don't try to have lots of gaps so you get lots of questions. The title, 15 words maximum normally you get. What is the question that you address? Have you addressed particular population group? If it's included in a particular time frame, please say that. Which methods are being used? If it's a qualitative or quantitative. Not saying that, but from the reading, you will understand there's people talking about impact here. People talking about moderation or mediation element of something. Or is a very qualitative. That's what I mean by that. Saying, not mentioning this is a qualitative paper. Yes, editors hate titles that make no sense. Present the subject matter adequately. Avoid boring titles like consider something to do the provoking. This kind of jargony language, it needs to be clear. Think about others may read and cite your paper. So use the main word. If it's about engagement, use engagement words. Remember, whoever's later on after publishing your paper wants to search your paper is going to say consumer engagement. So your papers comes up in the Google Scholar. So that's a cheeky but tricky way, but also all academics like to do that as well. Don't do the introduction at the end. That's what I normally do. But again, that's me. I like to do it that way because as abstract and introduction comes at the end, because you don't know which surprises might come up from your research methods and analysis. Summary of the issues, normally you need to say, and end with the research question and gap. always end with research question and gap. This is something people they ask quite reviewers they ask quite a lot. There is no research gap written in introduction. Edits or head references irrelevant to work. It's this reputation I said before. In inappropriate judgments on your own achievement, they will think that you have no sense or purpose at all. It's a bit harsh sentence, but that's what normally happens. Last thing before submitting, send to the co-authors, give them a deadline. This is very important to get permission from your co-authors before submitting. As a very small thing, but you don't want to start a war with your co-authors, basically. I haven't seen the paper before you submit, and just don't burn bridges, basically, what they say in Britain. Write a letter to the editor to sell your study, cover letter. It would be good to write a good cover letter. And some editors, they love to see a good cover letter, basically. Some they don't mind. I would say 70%, they really like to see a strong cover letter. Then repeat your abstract in cover letter. Don't just dump your abstract there. Ask for the friendly reviewers. That's what I normally do. If I want to publish, particularly in higher ranked journals, I always ask one of the friends to read my work. So it's good to have some friends as well. So as always, have some good connection with other people, trust them to give you, even if they give you a small paragraph, that is a good hint. Dealing with the revision, divide up into the suggestion requirement. I often use a table of reply. I show you an example. I know some of these you guys know, just mentioning it maybe for some of the our audience today, they don't know. Stick to the facts, don't rant, so don't waffle, what do we say in Britain? Don't respond to reviewers' feedback as soon as you get. That's very important one. Whenever you receive a feedback and it's somebody asking 3 reviewers give you 3 major reviews, you get angry. This is a normal, is a human being. So leave it for a week at least, or a couple of days, and then back to read it. You know that happened, but you don't want to go in there because you're going to be angry, and your reply letter and you're going to deal with the revision is not going to be, I would say, fruitful. Copy the changes in the table of reply as well. If either dump all the changes, like a direct quote, if you change something in the paper in your table of reply, or just say in page 3, that's happened, and highlight it in the other color in that in the main text. Revisions, normally they ask for these 7 points. Your research question, explaining the text or additional text to fill a gap in your paper, strengthening of the method section, request for additional analysis, that's a painful one, further explanation or additional data, further explanation of your discussion section, improving your theoretical or practical implication, improving limitation area for further research. I would say 80–90% of the time is one of these 7, or combination of a couple of these happens. So that's normally table of reply item. So I published this paper before. International Journal of Contemporary Hospitality Management, or for those you don't know, is a 3-star journal. And we were really unfortunate with this because we have 5 reviewers to deal with, which makes it like even more difficult. So basically, the first arrow, the question from the reviewers, were the author objective, and the question asked, and that's the way I reply. Always thanks and be polite with your reviewers. Don't use angry language. The person is dealing with your paper and is there not going to like your voice if it's angry voice. Remember, your papers is in his or her hands, so you need to be very polite with people. Remember, when you read the published papers, you only see the finished article. Publishing top journals challenges, you all know. When you read the published paper, you see the finished article, and revise and resubmission. All these things are important in the process. If rejected, revise based on the comment to improve your manuscript unless study was faithfully followed. If there is no way you could improve it, bury it fast and move on. If everybody says, no, there is an issue, consult with the friends and then do that, but maybe there is no way to do anything with this. Common reason article being rejected after peer review is that lack of context or lack of clarity. And follow the new journal guidelines again, if you submitted it in a new journal. And rewrite and go through, and don't make it to reviewers to notice this was rejected from another journal. You may get the same reviewers. You know, it's a small world. You may get the same reviewers, so it's important. Some reasons normally papers are rejected. Common mistakes included limited or no contribution, very dated citation. So we are in 2023 and you keep citing papers from 80s, particularly in digital, for example. I think a lot changed in the last 30 years in the digital environment. No critical engagement with the literature. I received that maybe like 2-3 times, and this is a really bad one. No critical engagement with the literature, unrelated by bibliography rather than a critical literature review. You're just listing the previous study without no critical insight. Too context-specific conceptual development. Poor expression with many grammatical errors. So proofreading is important, and sometimes not even some reviewers, they don't understand what you wrote. So it's important to send for the revision. And plagiarism. Please do use this, any of the softwares, particularly with ChatGPT. All these things is getting more important, and journal publishers are getting very picky on that as well. So be careful. Don't use those software, because the new versions are coming up, and with the publishers, they will notice what you did. Thank you. So that was a bit longer than but I just like to cover the points and ask questions. Any questions? And please let me know.
Thank you very much. And Professor Taheri, thank you very much for your presentation. It was really enlightening for all of us, at least at the stage we are. I would like to ask the following question. Forgive me if it is stupid, but I think now is the fine time to ask somebody who has a master knowledge on this. If I understood well, you told us that in the discussion, we can refer to any potential implications or limitations. I don't know if I'm right or wrong.
So what happens with the discussion section of paper depends on the structure of the journal, right? Sometimes they have a separate discussion section they need you to do. Sometimes that comes as a discussional implications.
Okay. Right. Sorry.
You go ahead.
My question is that if we incorporate implications and limitations in the methodology section, would it be right?
Depends which methodological view you're going up. So if you want to say, you justify your method and say, for example, some of the limitation of qualitative studies or some of the limitation of quantitative studies when you conduct it. So for example, And those limitations, even reliability and validity of the quantitative studies, those are limitations. So it needs to be there. But if you want
Yes.
to say, well, I did the quantitative work in this paper, somebody else needs to further analyze this, maybe using qualitative or mixed method approaches, that needs to come to the final section, limitation and further studies part.
I understand. So if something is directly related to the methodology we have already used, then it goes to the methodology section. If it is something that is, let's say, many more steps further and is not directly related to what we did, we can put it on the, let's say, suggestions for further research, etc.
Yes, it's pretty much like that, but it depends on the journals as well.
Okay.
Right? So because some journals, for example, I know tourism management likes to see a good limitation and further studies section. So they're really picky on that. And sometimes you go back and see, right, I did a qualitative, which is good in my work, but then I find out quantitative one could do something different. Yeah. Or sometimes you could say, this particular method I use has some shortcomings, or the literature finds a particular part, but you haven't mentioned, for example, in the literature is talking about co-creation, but not about co-design. It's just something to do with my own research. So co-design should be mentioned in the further studies, not in this. So you know what I mean? It depends. It's not concrete. It's not like a formula I can give you. It just needs to be like
okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And can I do a second question as well? It's not actually a question, just a request. I didn't manage to keep some notes on the covering letter, the slides you have on the covering letter, how we should write it. Could you please show the slide again?
But I think it's going to be recorded.
It will be recorded, Marietta, the video on YouTube. So you will be able to, no problem, to revise it.
Should I go to YouTube or this will be sent to us?
It will be on YouTube and also sent to you. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you both.
No problem.
Thanks, thanks, Professor Taheri.
No.
Krista, please.
Yes. Hi. Thank you so much for the insightful presentation. It's very useful. I'm currently working on a paper that I'm revising after had a friendly reviewer reading it and having some help. And I just have a general question, not specifically in the context of that specific journal, but you were talking about rigor. And the data I have is qualitative, and there is certain limitation because I don't have this much data. Say, like I have conducted 7 focus groups, for example, and I do have quantitative data, but I don't want it in this particular article. And this is an ABS journal I'm writing for, and I'm wondering if you have a limited amount of data from a limited amount of participants, how do you increase the rigor of your data, because we need to have the depth of the writing to create the depth rather than the breadth of the information. So I'm wondering, what advice would you give on how can you increase the rigor? Would I add specific other data, say like I would go and scrape some data and add something to it, or is there a way that I can just change my writing in the context of increasing the extent of literature and concepts in details? What would you recommend on this?
Is it a hard question, to be honest? Because depends on the paper, depends on the context, depends on the literature, depends on lots of things. I wrote a paper having only, I don't know, 15 interviews and published in a decent 3-star journal, right?
Okay.
But had a good contribution, and those samples are very important,
Yeah.
So that is different if you do consumer research sort of data collection and you interview 15 consumers and they want to say something about Coca-Cola, right? That is different. So it really depends on who are the target audience and a lot about and other parameters. But if you are less and you want to publish it, first I go to the journals. Some journals, even in ABS list, they like to see a good contribution.
Okay.
And they don't care about the data sample size. They want to see the contribution. Now, what is the contribution?
Yeah.
I don't know about your research, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really hard to say this is a particular formula and you need to follow
Yeah.
this and steps like that. But
yeah.
think about the contribution, and by reading the journals, you understand which journal has that.
Yeah.
Is that making sense? It's
Yeah,
not
no,
really
that's yeah.
easy question to answer because it depends on lots of things going on.
Yeah, no, that's very useful because and I was thinking about it, you know, on what to focus in this case, because I do have a contribution. The contribution is it is there. So I think that is really helpful that you're saying that you published in a high quality journal with less data, because I think I can do that too if I just that's very useful. That is helping because I'm at this stage to think about focus on specific aspects. Yeah,
no, it's important,
helpful.
and it's also important to think about contribution. If the contribution is good, it doesn't really matter. It's almost I always say, I know some journals are picky, but with the 200 samples for quantitative, how you could say I did a good contribution. It's not about that. I know some editors, they don't like to see a low sample size. But sometimes even 200 or 500, it's going to give you a similar result. It's not going to give you a massive thing, but just want to see it wasn't what American colleagues said, a fast and dirty paper. They want to see you did something in the process. That's fine. Okay.
Yeah, that's very useful. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Good afternoon to everyone. Thanks a lot for this insightful workshop. Can I ask a question, Professor Taheri, in relation to the cutting edge program, because I'm at the final stage also of my PhD journey.
Sure.
I have seen that there is a call for special issue, health aging and the service industries. I was wondering, because there is a niche topic I'm also interested in about social media, and I was wondering if this cutting edge doctoral research stream is applicable to special issues as well or not?
No, for the special issues, because we always give a space for our guest editors to deal with the situation. We like to involve, but we want to give them a space to deal with papers. So I would say if you want to submit separately, not for the special issue, if you want to do that. But if your paper is developed and is going to be 9,000 words, then submit it as a special issue. So you see what I mean? Because it's not, we don't want to involve with the, because we give them authority to the editors to do their own work.
Thanks a lot for this.
I wouldn't be happy when editor push me to do that as well. I don't know about Joseph. If you edit a special issue, would you be happy if the editor says do this, do that? No, you're not going to be happy.
Thank you for clarification, because I didn't find it online, this information, so that was very useful. Thank you.
Okay, no worries.
Ted, please.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Professor Taheri, for this wonderful presentation. Very interesting. You mentioned when you try, it's a good practice to reference a journal. If you're targeting that specific journal, it's good practice to reference from that particular journal. Is that minimum of numbers of references that we can use? Is like a percentage, or just to have to mention that particular journal is good practice?
No, I would say the relevant papers in that journal. So remember in one of the slides I said don't dump just the references for sake of saying something. needs to be relevant to that journal. So what I mean by that, if it's something to do with consumer engagement, and there are 20 or 10 relevant papers published in your targeted journal, that is a good idea to cite those.
Yeah.
But if it's like sometimes happen, you're submitting something and that journal doesn't even have like 1 or 2 papers, and you're pushing to say something, then it's not really a good practice.
Okay.
In that case, I sometimes do a cheeky approach, at least cite 1 or 2 papers about use of method.
Yeah.
So
Good. Yeah.
you could
Good.
do it that way.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you. More questions?
Yeah, I have questions, but sorry, I don't know how to hands up.
It's fine. Yes, it's fine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor. It's really helpful for me, especially I was struggling with the rejection and the submission process. Could you share more about how to deal with the words exceeding in the paper? I mean, it's difficult for me to delete the words to meet the words limitation, because I also used mixed methods, and there are 2 studies I have conducted in the paper.
Sorry, I don't really understand. You mean if you have a mixed method papers, how you deal with that?
I mean, I needed to meet the word limitation in of the requirement in the paper from the journal, and I used the mixed methods. So I have a very long words. So could you just how to edit it?
Yeah. So writing mixed method papers is a challenge. That's not a good start to saying is a good way of doing it, but it's a challenge because it's going to be long. It's going to be multi-methods or mixed method, both. So sometimes, like there is 4 experiments you want to do. Sometimes you want to do quantitative and qualitative, or several qualitative, or several quantitative, right? The first thing you need to do before you start this journey is to see which journals accept longer word limit. Journals also accept appendices. So sometimes you could put some of your analysis, some of the tables, etc., in your appendices, and is not included in the word limit. Right, that's one way. And the way I deal with it as well is editing, keep editing and reduce the word limit. So that's why mixed method papers takes longer, but I prefer mixed method because you can see the both sides. Right. But is again, there's no formula for it, but I would go with the journals that accept longer, more than 10,000 words, and there are some journals for doing that as well. But I would really read the guideline for some journal. In the service industry, is normally 9,000, 10,000, but we also accept appendices as well. So you could do that there, but again, depends what you want to do.
Sometimes I found some journals they have the word different requirement kind of. I don't know. I found the paper they published actually exceed the word limitation, but the requirement. So it means the requirement is not so strict for the word limitation, because I found the published papers actually exceeded the word limitation. For example, the Journal of Travel Research.
Yes. So what happens? I know the editors there as well. I'm editorial, but what happens sometimes after the revision is exceeds the word limit. Some editors they don't mind. After publication, remember, sometimes it goes through 2-3 revisions, and each reviewer asks something to add. So sometimes that because of that exceed the word limit. But there are journals like International Journal of Contemporary Hospitality Management He says, after all these done, it still needs to be under 9,000 words.
Oh, yeah.
So
really
that's a bit a
depends.
painful one. I'm assistant editor of that journal. I know Fevzi is like that, wants to see. And there is one of the reasons for that. There's an interesting reason. It's a publisher's issue. Publishers give us particular space for the journal. So each volume needs to have, I don't know, 12 papers. And if there are more than 9,000 words, it's going to squeeze that. So one of the reasons, and this is a common sort of issue with lots of publishers. So it's not editors, it's pushed by the publisher to do this kind of things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Oh, thank you so much.
Jakat Risham, please.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for the opportunity and for the wonderful session. I have a question regarding how you encounter the question of what is the contribution of your research paper to the discipline and existing literature? Why? Because this question is very tricky, because sometimes the studies can be quite contextual with geography and sometimes with respect to the culture and the social context. So how you justify that this paper is relevant?
I didn't really understand. So you say because it's your paper on geography, it doesn't have a contribution?
Yeah, because some cases they can be say that the factors is already studied. So since the geography has changed, so does it make any difference that sometimes we encounter this question? So what is the new contribution you are trying to bring?
I don't know. I don't have an answer for that because I don't know the context and content of your study. Because it's the way you're describing why you should do something people already done. Okay. So what is the contribution? So if I ask you, what is your contribution? Because I don't know your research. Tell me that, and then maybe I could help.
If you take the case, some cases, depending upon the geography, some factors can be quite irrelevant. So, and you may say
and
that.
What do you mean by that? Practice on relevant? Sorry.
So what happens is that the argument usually we get is that these factors are extensively studied. So when you're just changing the geography, does it make any sense? That is one question we encounter usually.
So I will. So the problem is, you're already saying the problem before submitting the paper.
Okay.
You see what I mean? So you already know the problem, but you're submitting the paper anyway. So you need to sort out that problem before submitting. So sometimes happen, you already know the problem.
Okay.
You know where to, but you need to twist that problem in a way you could sell to the editor and the journal.
Okay. Yeah.
You see what I mean, right?
Yeah, I got it.
That's good.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other question? No? I want to ask you something, Babak, about the cutting edge doctoral. If a paper is published there, it will have any kind of label of indication that it's a cutting edge, or will be published a normal paper?
No, it's a normal paper, it's going to be.
Okay, and this is an open call? No?
Yes, open call, there's no deadline. So this is an initiative, we want to help our junior member of staff, junior researchers, and the people they want to start a career as academics. So it's no matter.
Perfect.
Anytime they can submit it.
Thanks. So it was really interesting because you covered two topics, one of them the cutting edge doctoral program, but also some tips for publication that are useful for everyone, even for senior researchers, not just young researchers. I was talking a lot of notes for myself as well. So.
Oh, no, I think it's important because some of these things is not even for the service industry journal, but there's a common mistakes, common practices between any papers you want to publish in a journal. So it's good to have that knowledge before any, particularly for the junior member of academics they want to learn.
And yes, all of us can learn. For instance, something very apparently minor. You mentioned plagiarism, and it happened that sometimes when people check the plagiarism with the system that we have, let's say Turnitin or whatever, when you submit to the journal, you need to be very careful because sometimes if you don't tick not in the repository, maybe you're checking your own paper on yourself, you forgot to untick not in the repository, so it goes to repository, and when you submit to a journal, the journal will see self-plagiarism, but this you was just checking your paper. So this kind of precautions can save you a lot of headache.
And also sometimes, it never happened to me, but I heard from other people, sometimes the paper rejected in the system, one journal, and you submit after the work to other journal. For some reason, they didn't clean up in the system. So you get is like this paper submitted twice, but it's not submitted twice. And that's like a click, I think, a cleanse sort of in the websites of the publisher, particularly if it's the same publisher, happens sometimes. But anyways, we learn as well.
Good. Perfect. Great. So any final comment or question?
Not from me. It was a great session.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it. Particularly, I always enjoy the questions because I could talk for hours and hours. But I like the question parts more than when I talk, basically. So
it was really interesting. So thank you so much, Babak, for being with us today, dedicating your busy person being with us. And as I said, I will be recording we will be video editing the session. It will be uploading on YouTube, so you will have access to the research group and to all the videos, okay? And just to let you know that on the 14th of June, we will have a session with Professor Dimitrios Bouhalis. He's the Bournemouth University. He's a world expert in tourism. But this will be in campus. It will come to a Marylebone campus. So I will send you information this morning. Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And good luck with your papers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very